There is a chilling moment in many marriages that most men never see coming. It doesn't begin with shouting, with slammed doors, or with the cold announcement of divorce papers landing on the kitchen table. It begins much earlier, silently, invisibly inside the private world of the woman. The man is still living his life, still working, still providing, still believing that his relationship is intact. But in her mind, something has already shifted. A slow erasure begins, not just of love, not just of intimacy, but of the man himself. Today we call it the digital erasure. It is the modern way women prepare for a divorce, long before they utter a single word about it, long before the legal system gets involved, long before the man realizes what has already been set in motion. The erasure happens quietly, almost ritualistically. Text messages are deleted, photos vanish from her social media, passwords are changed. A new digital identity begins to form, one in which the husband no longer exists. This isn't just about technology, this is about psychology. The digital erasure is the outward sign of an inward process. When a woman begins to delete a man digitally, she is already rehearsing for a life without him. She is reprogramming her mind, distancing her emotions, and creating a parallel world where she is no longer his wife, but an independent self, ready to step into a future he has no access to. And here lies the cruel truth. By the time a man notices that he has been erased, the divorce is not a possibility anymore, it is inevitable. The emotional exit always precedes the physical exit. The invisible departure always comes before the visible one. In this video, we will go deep into this hidden process. We will uncover how women mentally, emotionally, and digitally erase their husbands long before the divorce. We will explore why they do it, how men often fail to notice, and what this reveals about the brutal realities of modern relationships. This is the digital erasure, how wives delete men before the divorce. Part 1. The invisible divorce begins in silence. Divorce does not start in the courtroom. It does not even start with the dramatic conversations where a wife says she is no longer happy. It starts much earlier, in silence, in the hidden chambers of her inner world. Most men imagine that their marriage is like a contract that ends suddenly with a signature. In truth, women do not walk away suddenly. They disengage gradually, piece by piece, until nothing is left but a hollow formality. This slow disconnection begins with small, almost invisible acts. She stops updating him on her daily life. She begins to invest more emotional energy in friends, co-workers, or online communities than in her husband. She spends more time on her phone than in shared conversations. And yet, to the husband, life seems normal enough. He sees her present in the home, present at dinner, present in the routines of life. But presence does not equal connection. She is there physically, but her mind is slowly withdrawing. This is the beginning of the invisible divorce. And technology has made this process far easier to conceal. In the past, a husband might notice letters hidden in drawers or late-night phone calls. But now, with encrypted chats, private browsing, and hidden apps, a woman can detach without leaving any obvious traces. She can begin the erasure silently, hidden behind the screen's glow, while sitting next to him on the couch. The psychological meaning of this silence is devastating. Women rarely begin to erase a man digitally until they have already erased him emotionally. The unfollowing, the deleting of pictures, the removal of couple photos, these are not spontaneous acts. They are calculated steps in reprogramming her identity. She is telling herself, I am no longer his wife. I am becoming someone else, and yet the man rarely sees it coming. Men often live under the illusion of stability. They believe that because life continues, because the bills are paid, the children are fed, and the home still functions, that everything is fine. What they fail to see is that women often begin their divorces in the realm of symbols and emotions long before they manifest in reality. This invisible divorce is why so many men feel blindsided when the actual separation happens. They will say, I had no idea she was unhappy. I had no idea she was preparing to leave. But in truth, the signs were there all along, hidden in her silence, in her withdrawal, and in the small, subtle acts of digital erasure. Part 2. The social media cleansing, erasing the husband from her story. The most visible step of the digital erasure happens on social media. This is where the wife begins to rewrite her story. Not with words, but with absence. The man is erased not through confrontation, but through deletion. Pictures vanish, Posts are edited, captions are rewritten. In a matter of days or weeks, a digital history that once represented years of shared life is scrubbed clean. For the husband, this can feel shocking. Imagine scrolling through your wife's profile one day and noticing that the vacation photos you cherished together are gone. The anniversary post that once proclaimed her love has disappeared. Family pictures are cropped, edited, or deleted. Slowly, a man who once occupied the central place in her online world is now absent, like a ghost who never existed. This cleansing is not accidental. It is psychological warfare dressed as routine. To the outside world, it signals availability. To her friends, it signals transformation. To herself, it signals independence. By erasing her husband digitally, she is not just removing old posts, she is declaring a new self. A self untied from the marriage, unshackled from the past, free to begin a different future. The cruel reality is that this social media cleansing often happens long before the husband is even aware that the marriage is in danger. He might still be buying flowers, planning family events, or thinking about vacations, while she has already begun crafting her new identity. And the digital erasure sends a clear message. She has stopped telling their story. She is now telling her own. What makes this particularly destructive is the public dimension of the erasure. Divorce is no longer just a private event. It is a social performance. The moment a woman deletes her husband from her online world, she is sending a silent but unmistakable announcement to her network. I am no longer bound by him. I am stepping into a different role. This public act deepens the private detachment. Once she has erased him online, she is less likely to feel tied to him offline. Philosophers like Byung-Chul Han talk about the aestheticization of life in the digital era. People no longer simply live, they curate their existence for others to see. In this context, a wife who deletes her husband online is not just editing photos. She is editing her identity, curating her life as a story in which the husband no longer plays a part. Part 3, the password divide, walls inside the marriage. One of the most overlooked signs of the digital erasure is the way technology becomes a wall instead of a bridge. In a healthy relationship, digital spaces, phones, social accounts, shared devices often carry an openness that reflects trust. A wife who once casually shared her passwords or left her phone unlocked on the table now begins to guard it like a vault. Notifications are silenced, screens are tilted away, and private chats are carefully hidden. What looks like privacy is in reality secrecy. This is the password divide, a moment when digital walls go up inside the marriage. To the husband, it might seem like a minor thing. After all, doesn't everyone deserve personal space? Doesn't everyone have the right to privacy? But this divide is different. It is not about privacy. It is about exclusion. It is about creating a secret digital world in which he no longer belongs. The psychology behind this shift is devastating. When a wife begins locking her digital life away, she's sending a symbolic message. You no longer have access to me. You no longer get to see all of me. In practical terms, she may be communicating with others, forming new bonds or exploring potential relationships. But even if no affair is taking place, the exclusion itself is an act of emotional divorce. She has begun creating a second identity, an identity that lives without him. Philosopher Michel Foucault once said that secrecy is power. By controlling access to information, one controls the relationship. In the digital age, the password divide is not just about keeping secrets. It is about shifting the balance of power. A man who once felt like the center of her world now finds himself shut out, relegated to the margins of her private digital kingdom. What is tragic is how many men ignore these warning signs. They rationalize. They say to themselves, she just needs space. She just values her independence. I should not be insecure. They fail to recognize that the wall of secrecy is not an isolated act. It is part of the broader erasure. The husband is being deleted, not only from her public social life, but also from her private digital world. And once the password divide is in place, it becomes nearly impossible to reverse. Trust once removed is rarely rebuilt. A woman who has created a separate digital life has already made the psychological leap into a separate emotional life. The man remains physically in the house, but digitally and therefore psychologically, he is already gone. Part 4. Emotional reprogramming. Deleting him from her mind. The digital erasure is not just about deleting photos or locking away conversations. Its deepest function is psychological. The wife is not merely erasing her husband from the digital world, she is erasing him from her own mind. This emotional reprogramming is subtle, almost invisible. It begins with language. She stops saying we and starts saying I. She stops consulting him about decisions and begins to act independently. She rewrites her memories, telling herself stories about the marriage in which he appears as the villain, the burden, the obstacle to her happiness. Even moments of joy are reinterpreted as illusions. She convinces herself that she was never really happy, or that she stayed too long. Cognitive dissonance theory explains this process well. To justify leaving a stable marriage, a woman must rewrite her inner narrative. She cannot admit that she's walking away from comfort and security, simply out of dissatisfaction or desire for novelty. So she reframes history. She convinces herself that he was never enough, that he never truly loved her, that the marriage was always doomed. This rewriting allows her to feel righteous in her departure. Digital erasure amplifies this psychological reprogramming. Each deleted photo becomes a small victory in erasing the past. Each unfollowed account becomes proof that she no longer belongs to that chapter. By curating a digital self without him, she reinforces her internal narrative. I am not his anymore. I am free. For the husband, this is devastating because it erases not only the present but the past. When he looks back on the marriage, he still remembers the vacations, the anniversaries, the nights spent together. But in her mind, those memories are gone, or worse, rewritten as false or meaningless. She has deleted him not only from her social profile but from her internal archive. Part 5. The Parallel Life. Building a future without him. By the time the digital erasure is nearly complete, the wife has already begun constructing something new, a parallel life. This is the stage where the marriage is technically still intact, but psychologically she has already crossed the threshold. The husband sees her in the same home, but he is no longer part of her future. This parallel life often begins in small ways. She joins new groups, forms new friendships, invests more time in work or hobbies. These may seem harmless, even positive, but beneath the surface, they are rehearsals for independence. Every new contact, every new habit, every new digital presence reinforces the identity of a woman who no longer needs her husband. Social media plays a key role here. She begins curating her profile in ways that signal her availability without saying it outright. More selfies, more posts about empowerment, more quotes about independence and freedom. The husband, if he notices, may feel uneasy, but he tells himself it's just a phase. What he doesn't realize is that these are not random posts. They are public rehearsals for her new identity. Philosophically, this stage is about replacement. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human psyche. Once she has deleted her husband from her digital and emotional life, she must fill that void with something new. This might be friends, online communities, or in many cases, another man. The parallel life is rarely built in isolation. More often, it is constructed with the help of someone who represents the future she is imagining. For the husband, this is the most dangerous phase, because he is now competing, not only with her dissatisfaction, but with her new vision of life. He is not fighting to preserve the past, he is fighting against her imagined future. And no man can win against imagination. Reality can rarely compete with fantasy. Part 6. The cold replacement. How men discover they were deleted. For most men, the realization of erasure comes not through conversation, but through shock. It is not that she sits him down and explains her feelings. It is not that she gives him a chance to repair the marriage. Instead, he finds out suddenly, violently, in a way that leaves him shattered. Perhaps he stumbles across her phone and sees messages with someone he doesn't recognize. Perhaps he notices that the shared bank account has been quietly emptied. Perhaps he sees that friends he once shared with her no longer greet him. Because in her parallel narrative, he has already been written out. This is the stage of the cold replacement. By now, the erasure is complete. The woman is no longer rehearsing independence, she is living it. Another man, or at the very least another vision of life, has already stepped into the space that the husband once occupied. And the cruelest part, by the time he realizes it, she has already emotionally numbed herself. His tears, his pleas, his promises to change, they do not move her. Why? Because she has already cried her tears in private months or years before. She has already rehearsed the departure so many times that now, in reality, it feels like nothing more than a confirmation of what she already decided. This is why men describe their wives during divorce as cold, unfeeling, or stone-hearted. It is not that she has suddenly become inhuman. It is that she has already done the grieving process in silence. She has already detached, already rewritten the past, already stepped into her new identity. By the time the man catches up emotionally, she's already gone. Part 7. The Digital Tombstone. His absence becomes her freedom. Once the divorce is official, the digital erasure takes on its most permanent form. The husband is no longer simply deleted, he becomes a ghost. His absence becomes part of her freedom. On her social media, there are no traces of him. To new friends, co-workers, or future partners, it is as though he never existed. The vacations, the anniversaries, the family milestones, they are gone, wiped clean. Her digital profile now tells a story of independence, empowerment, and rebirth. She is reborn not because of him, but without him. This is the digital tombstone. He is buried in silence, in absence, in deletion. And what is left is a carefully curated life in which she appears stronger, freer, and more radiant than before. This is not accidental. It is a performance, a public narrative designed to reinforce her private conviction. I am better off without him. For the husband, this is a second death. The first death was losing her emotionally. The second death is realizing that his entire history with her has been erased. It is as though he has been exiled not only from her present, but from her past. The years he invested, the sacrifices he made, the memories he cherished, all of them now exist only in his mind. While in her digital world, they are gone. This is why many divorced men feel like they have been erased from history itself. They walk through life carrying memories that no one else acknowledges. They feel like ghosts haunting a past that no longer exists. And when they see their former wives posting new photos, living new lives, and telling new stories, they realize the full brutality of the digital erasure. It is not just about deleting a man, it is about deleting the version of herself who once belonged to him. The lesson of the digital erasure. The story of the digital erasure is not just about technology, it is about psychology. It is about the hidden ways in which women prepare for divorce long before men see it coming. It is about the invisible process of detachment, the gradual erasure of a man from her emotions, her memories, and her digital identity. The tragic pattern is always the same. First comes the invisible divorce in silence, then the social media cleansing, then the password divide, then the emotional reprogramming, then the parallel life, then the cold replacement, and finally the digital tombstone. By the time the husband realizes what has happened, he has already been deleted. So what can men learn from this? The lesson is not paranoia. It is not to obsess over phones, accounts, or passwords. The lesson is awareness, to recognize that love is not guaranteed, that digital presence reflects emotional presence, that silence, secrecy, and erasure are signs of deeper truths. More importantly, the lesson is self-reliance. A man who builds his entire identity on his wife, who hands over his sense of worth to her, is vulnerable to erasure. But a man who grounds his identity in his own mission, his own strength, his own values, such a man cannot be erased. His worth does not depend on her memory, her posts, or her presence. Arthur Schopenhauer once said that to marry is to put your happiness in someone else's hands. In the digital age, to marry is also to put your memory in someone else's feed. And as we have seen, that memory can be erased overnight. The digital erasure is brutal. It is cold, it is silent, but it also reveals the truth men must face. In a world where stories can be rewritten, only those who stand strong in themselves can survive being deleted. This was the digital erasure, how wives delete men before the divorce.